Hey, I want to talk about how you are a key communicator in your environment. All right. What what you're going through is stuff that should be shared in a discernment way. Because just blasting it out there is something that probably a few people should not be privy to some of the stuff that you personally went through because that was your own personal journey. But something relatable, that's a different story because you could give a different perspective of what that individual is going through. Okay? The relaying information also has to be clear. Okay? But let me talk about this for a second. When I say, let's talk about the elephant in the room, there's people like you and I that understands what that means. All right? But some people outside of that culture says, "Oh, I don't have an elephant. I can't bring it in the room, so it doesn't apply to me." See what I'm saying? There's some things of culture that is misinterpreted passing through from one culture to another. And when that happens, then things could be lost in translation. This is stuff that linguists such as myself get to see, that this kind of stuff is also misinterpreted. The other one that I was reminded of today was collapse. Yes, I agree with the person. I don't even remember who it was today, but the person did say about collapse, and I didn't think too deeply about it because I forgot that in my culture it's different. So collapse is correct. It's the sudden fall, the quickness of a fall. All right. But as a linguist, there's also words that don't precisely, or intents that don't precisely fit one word. So what I like to use is the linear degradation of something. In other words, it just keeps on going down a little bit at a time. There's a difference between the two. One's an immediate, and the other one is you have a chance to intervene to go ahead and fix it and bridge that gap. Okay, so I'm going to say this one. I've seen a house fly. Okay, some people would pick up on that one real quick and then chuckle a little bit. You know, others don't. All right, they'll say, "I've never seen an actual house flying around," or just say a fly. You see what I'm saying? There's a difference between the two. So the interpretation of what you're displaying as a key communicator, because you're chosen ones and you're trying to explain what's going on, okay? Because you see it, right? But one thing's for a fact, it's going to take time. All right? Time is also a factor when you're dealing with communications, such as like a linguist. Not until the intent is even recognized could you put a labeling on it. Primary example, look at Helen Keller. Okay? Anne Sullivan tried her hardest to go ahead and make her understand what these things are that she's touching. And if you guys don't know the story about Helen Keller, she was born, blind and deaf. Like, she knew she was there, but she didn't know where there was. All right? And she didn't know, she'll feel somebody grab her or something like that. She'll know it's a person, and knows that there's an intent for grabbing her attention, but it's not precisely the exact same way as they had intended for, right? So I'm sorry that this thing's moving around a lot, but trying to get a stand for you as well. But not until the moment that it clicked for Helen Keller when Anne Sullivan was trying to explain to her water. going through her hands. And then not until Helen Keller bridged the gap of saying, oh, this means water, that's when communication starts happening. So for all you guys that are out there trying to communicate this, it's going to take some time, because Anne Sullivan was with Helen Keller for a good minute trying to let her understand what water even means. And then after that, communication flew wonderfully. Information flow was just going through in and out with clear understanding. Whereas the populace around that immediate area, they viewed Helen Keller as a lost cause. Until one person actually paid attention and tried to bridge the gap of that communication barrier that Helen Keller had. To do something like that, you have to have courage, because there was a lot on the line to have Helen Keller understand what's going on. And you can't have courage without fear. It's impossible. It's directly correlated. You can't have courage without fear. So if there's some fear, well, like I said, you can't have courage without fear. Be who you are. Now, remember, there's consequences for actions. What you send out will come back. All right? So that's why I always say to people that, I'll help you get the rewards that you worked hard for. And if they worked hard for, being stronger in their fields of creativity and all that stuff, great. That's awesome. For artistics or whatever. But you got to keep in mind there's always consequences, whether it's good or bad. There's rewards, either if it's good or bad. So you got to remove your fear. And we're bound by a lot of fear up here because of social norms and, other things like that. So just keep that in mind moving forward. All right. Hope this helps. Talk to you guys later.